Welcome to the last leg of the Georgia Peace and Justice Coalition Right to Peace Walk. The walk started April 26th in Columbus, Georgia, and is ending now, here today. We're starting the last leg here in Atlanta, Georgia, on the march from the King Center to the Georgia Tech area on 10th and Fowler. We have a couple speakers today. Oh, I forgot to introduce me. My name is Dawn Gibson. I'm from the Georgia Peace and Justice Coalition. You can also find out more information about us at georgiapeace.org. Our first speaker today is Kevin Karen from the Georgia Peace and Justice Coalition's Drone Task Force.
Thank you. I wanted to start off by giving a little background about why we're all here. About a year ago, last summer, there was an international conference on drones here in Atlanta on the technology, and we decided to get together and demonstrate because we were concerned about the way that the global drone war has taken shape. We got together and we had a week-long protest outside the Hyatt in downtown Atlanta. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution came and reported on it, but they didn't talk to us. They decided they wanted to talk to the head of the conference instead. The head of that conference said, "Oh, these are peaceful drones. We're not weaponizing anything. We're not talking about military use." What he neglected to mention was that two different speakers at the conference were there from the military, and they were talking about military use. This was on their website. It was documented extremely well, and so that amounts to lying and misconstruing why we were there, why we were present. A year later, we've gotten a little more informed. We've learned that Georgia Tech is one of the leading research institutions for the use of drone warfare, and we've decided to connect the dots between this issue and other issues that are happening around the world and around our state here in Georgia. So for example, in 2006, a researcher, professor named Ronald Arkin at Georgia Tech was contracted by the Department of Defense to develop drones that would act ethically. What the military was seeking was they were seeking a technology that could eliminate the use of human beings altogether and instead run a computer program to be determined by the lawmakers and the computer scientists working together that would identify and execute targets automatically without human intervention at all. We have since discovered that Georgia Tech cooperates with Fort Benning, which is where the School of the Americas is located, which some of our colleagues here will talk about in a bit. They cooperate with one another, and they do this by building and designing the drones at Georgia Tech, taking them down to Fort Benning, Georgia, where at the School of the Americas there are soldiers that are trained in small tactical uses of drones, and also they fly new technology. So for example, one of the new things that they're trying to do is they're trying to make drones that communicate with one another and decide autonomously when it is necessary to kill a person without a person actually deciding to take the shot. So we've drawn a connection between what happens at Fort Benning and what is happening globally around the world. So for example, what's really important to remember is that none of this information would be available except for the fact that victims of drone attacks have stepped up and they've talked about what has happened to them. And by the way, they risk their lives when they do this. So just a few months ago in 2013, Nabila Rehman came from northern Pakistan, an area known as Waziristan, and she spoke before 3 members of Congress. And what she talked about was watching her grandmother picking okra in the fields with her and her brother be shot by 2 Hellfire missiles that came from a U.S. drone. The United States has not acknowledged this attack, but we know that it's happened because international human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch have reported on it extensively. The UN has agreed that these drone attacks are inappropriate as far as international law is concerned, And we are now at a point where the Obama administration is supposed to release information about how they're killing people, specifically U.S. citizens. What's really important to remember is that we don't know how what interpretation of the law they're using to kill U.S. citizens, but we also don't condone what they're doing to kill people that aren't U.S. citizens. Those people matter too. So a lot of people have criticized our group, and this specifically was true last year when we did the protests at the Hyatt. The issue was that they said, we are using drones peacefully. This technology can be used for good. You can use it to deliver medication to remote areas. You can use it to monitor forest fires and monitor the melting of ice caps. And all that is true. The unfortunate truth that is not mentioned is that we do not use drones predominantly for that. They aren't used to deliver medication. They are used to deliver missiles. And those missiles are destroying families. Those missiles are creating more people who are angry with the U.S. for destroying their loved ones, for killing their children. People in northern Waziristan, in this area of Pakistan that's been particularly affected, they don't go to school because they are so frightened by the idea of drones being present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Oops, I'm going in and out of here. Okay, thank you, Kevin. Our next speaker is Maria Luisa. She is representing the School of the Americas Watch.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. It's for us, it's been day 8 since the day we started last Saturday, April 26th, at the gates of Fort Benning. We're here in solidarity, in absolute solidarity, with the Georgia Peace and Justice Coalition in their struggle to call attention to these killer drones. For us, it's absolutely important to make these connections. As you know, SOA, now renamed WINSEC, the Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation, operates out of Fort Benning, and the terror that has been brought to Latin America, not democracy and human rights, since 1946. And so over 60 years later, over 70,000 SOA grads later, there is still a legacy and a continuation of systematic human rights violations. And when we heard that the testing of the drones that are being researched and developed at Georgia Tech were in fact tested at the Battle Lab at Fort Benning, it was obvious that we were going to be here, and we stand in solidarity. We denounce this practice, the research, the development, the testing, and the use of these drones, because, put simply, we see this in a very large context, under the larger context of U.S. militarism, and we see the development and testing of drones and the training of Latin American soldiers in Latin America as part of a larger system. And both the drone issue and the soldiers in Latin America are not an aberration of U.S. foreign policy. They are very clear examples of it, and we will say that, and we are here to say that, and we will continue to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Luisa. Our next speaker is Azadeh Shashahani. She's representing the National Lawyers Guild and the American Civil Liberties Union of Georgia. Azadeh? Yay!
Thank you very much, and I also wanted to thank the Georgia Peace and Justice Coalition and the School of America's Watch for organizing the walk for the right to peace and today's event to draw attention to the drone killings. So on April 19th, as a result of a U.S. drone strike, 4 Yemeni builders were killed on their way to work, leaving 20 children without fathers as a result. The Yemeni government has acknowledged that the killings were a mistake, but the U.S. government has yet to deliver an apology. This is just one example of the illegal drone killings that the CIA and the military continue to carry out in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, and elsewhere around the world, where individuals far from any battlefield who do not pose any imminent threat continue to be killed in violation of international law. The targeted killing program operates without meaningful oversight outside the executive branch, and essential details about the program remain secret, including what criteria are used to put people on the CIA and military kill list, or how much evidence is required. The lack of transparency and oversight of the targeted killing program allows those in charge of the program to operate with unchecked authority and to put the names of citizens and others on kill lists on the basis of a secret determination based on secret evidence that the person meets a secret definition of the enemy. The US government must provide transparency because the public, we have the right to understand and evaluate the US government's defense of the program with information beyond what the government has selectively chosen to disclose. The government must disclose the details of the targeted killing program in response to Freedom of Information Act lawsuits. One such lawsuit was brought by the ACLU in February 2012, where we sought information about the targeted killings of 3 US citizens in Yemen in September and October 2011. Anwar al-Awlaki, Samir Khan, and Awlaki's 16-year-old son, Abdurrahman al-Awlaki. The lawsuit sought disclosure of the legal memoranda written by the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel that provided justifications for the targeted killing of Anwar al-Awlaki, as well as records describing the factual basis for the killings of 3 American citizens. The government initially refused to even confirm or deny whether it had records related to the ACLU's request and whether it was responsible for the killings, despite numerous public statements by the US officials about the program and its legal basis. Months later, it acknowledged its responsibility for the 3 killings, but argued to the courts that it could not identify the number of documents in its possession or describe them without endangering national security. In April, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit held that the government must disclose a previously unreleased memorandum related to the killing of Anwar al-Awlaki. The opinion also ordered the government to publicly describe many other documents relating to the targeted killing programs about which it had previously refused to provide any information. This is a victory, it's a step in the right direction for transparency, and we look forward to examining the documents. The US government must also stop objecting to judicial review, as it did in a lawsuit filed in July 2012 by the ACLU and the Center for Constitutional Rights, challenging the government's targeted killing of the 3 US citizens in 2 drone strikes, both in Yemen. The suit charges that the US government's killings of US citizens, the 3 US citizens that I mentioned, in 2011 violated the US Constitution's fundamental guarantees against the deprivation of life without due process of law. The defendants moved to dismiss the lawsuit, that's the government, the US government, arguing that the courts have no role to play in determining whether the killing of the 3 Americans were lawful. Based on the government's justification, it's the executive branch and the executive branch only who can decide whether to kill somebody without any type of a judicial process. In April, a federal district court in Washington, D.C. unfortunately dismissed the case. As such, those responsible for the program who have carried out killings, including of US citizens, but also of others, many hundreds and thousands of others around the world, in violation of the US Constitution and international law, have yet to be held accountable. It is time for the US government to stop the use of drones for the extrajudicial killings of individuals in violation of the US Constitution and international law, to provide transparency and to be held to account. And we can, together we can hold the US government accountable for the killings. Thank you.
Thank you, Azadeh. Our next speaker will be a representative from the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. Come on down.
Buenas tardes y bueno, yo soy Nelly Rodríguez y soy miembro también de la Coalición de Trabajadores de Immokalee.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nelly Rodríguez and I'm a member of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers.
Bueno, y estamos bien contentos de estar aquí con ustedes apoyando esta lucha. Nosotros en Immokalee también tenemos una lucha que básicamente es para que se respeten los derechos de los trabajadores, que se respeten los derechos de los seres humanos.
We're so very happy to be here with all of you today supporting this struggle, and we, the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, have our own struggle that is very related. It is a struggle for the recognition of the basic rights and the humanity of workers in the fields.
Muchos de nosotros que estamos hoy aquí somos personas trabajadoras y personas inmigrantes que por alguna razón siempre nos ha estado afectando mucho las tácticas que usa este gobierno para obligarnos a salir de nuestros países a buscar mejores condiciones de vida.
And many of us who are here today are women working in the fields who are immigrants ourselves and who have been directly affected by the policies of the United States government that have obligated us to come here in search of a better life, in search of work.
Es por ese motivo que muchos de nosotros nos vemos obligados a estar aquí en este país. Y no hay duda de que es importante crear conciencia de que en este tiempo hace mucha falta el reconocimiento de los seres humanos y que se respete la humanidad de cada uno de nosotros.
And so it's for so many of these policies that we're here today, and that's why it's so important to continue building this consciousness around what's actually happening and around the idea that the rights and the humanity of so many people, of all of us, needs to be respected and recognized.
No importa quién esté, de dónde sea, de qué país, si es blanco, si es del color que sea, todos somos seres humanos y todos estamos afectados por esas tácticas de guerra que Estados Unidos de alguna manera o de otra ha afectado a muchos de nuestros países y a muchas de nuestras familias que todavía siguen allá sufriendo de las tácticas que usa este país. Entre ellos, nosotros hemos visto cómo han usado esos drones para militarizar las fronteras.
And that's why it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what country you come from, whether you're a white person, whether you're a person of color. This is an issue that we all need to stand together on. This is an issue that affects all of us. And we've seen very directly how the militarization of our home communities has affected our families, has affected the lives that we've led. And we've seen very clearly too that in recent years, or for many years now, the US government has used these same tactics to militarize the border between the United States and Mexico. And so for all of these reasons, we all need to stand together to put an end to these policies and these tactics used by the United States government.
No importa si ellos dicen que son drones que no son violentos, lo que importa es que más adelante los van a usar para matar. El fin de todo es matar y no importa quién. No importa de dónde seamos, no importa si somos niños, si somos adultos, al final de cuentas es lo que van a hacer, es matar, y eso es de lo que estamos en contra, porque todos somos seres humanos y nadie tiene el derecho de quitar la vida a nadie por el simple hecho de que ellos quieren hacer eso con la gente.
And it doesn't matter if they say that they're building drones for peaceful means. We know that eventually they're going to use them for violence, to kill people. And they're going to kill people without regards to who they are. It doesn't matter if they're children, it doesn't matter if they're adults. And that at the end of the day is exactly what they're going to do, and we know that to be true. And for that reason we need to stand together to end this. Because killing at the end of the day is wrong. Deciding that you want to take away the life of a human being is wrong. And deciding that you can do that for any reason that you want to is wrong. And so for that reason we're here today to say this program, these drones need to end.
Entonces estamos aquí todos porque somos gente que tenemos conciencia, somos gente que en el camino por la lucha de nuestra dignidad y nuestro respeto hemos aprendido a despertar la conciencia, y eso es lo que hace falta mucho para los que gobiernan este país, tener conciencia y ver de qué manera ellos están perjudicando a las personas que simplemente están aquí para una mejor condición de vida. Todos nosotros que estamos en esta lucha lo hacemos porque somos gente que sabemos que es importante crear esa justicia en todos los que les falta tener conciencia.
And so we're here today because we're people of conscience. Along this road to justice, together we've built a collective consciousness. And that's exactly what those sitting in the United States government who are supporting this drone program lack. A consciousness around what this really means for people. And so together we're going to stand on this walk to justice, continue building this consciousness, and making the call to end this program.
Entonces aquí estamos con nuestro apoyo y hay que seguir adelante. Estamos por muchos años apoyando la lucha que ha tenido la Escuela de las Américas y por eso estamos el día de hoy aquí, también para seguir adelante con su lucha. Y su lucha es nuestra lucha.
And we've been supporting the struggle to close the School of the Americas for so many years now, and that's why we're here again today. And we're going to continue being here until we achieve the victory that we're looking for. That's why we're here today.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you, Joe.
Our final speaker today, I have the pleasure of, okay, where's my mic? All right. I have the pleasure of introducing Father Roy Bourgeois.
Well, it's been said very clearly, very boldly. It's not complicated. We're here because of the death and suffering, the violence that our country is causing to sisters and brothers in many countries. Latin America, Pakistan, Yemen, and many other countries. We are here because so many of our sisters and brothers suffering, grieving for their loved ones because of those drones, grieving because of soldiers trained at Fort Benning, at School of the Americas WINSEC. They've returned to their countries after their training and have caused untold suffering and death. They can't be here to tell their stories. That's why we're here. We cannot be silent. And we're here also to challenge, to invite, to ask in loving ways of our people here at home to join us, to break their silence. This is not just about our government causing this untold suffering and death, the drones, through the militarization that we bring into these countries. It's being done in our names. It's with our tax money. Those drones are consuming billions of dollars in research. Right here, Georgia Tech, Fort Benning. The School of the Americas recently got $48 million for 5 new buildings. And just months ago, 2 middle schools in Columbus, Georgia, not just down the road from the School of the Americas, closed. Why? Because of the $300 million budget cut in Georgia, which translates to budget cuts right there in Columbus, right here in Atlanta, and every other community. And there will be more schools closing. More of our people who are struggling in poverty, who don't have health care, who frequent, I know in Columbus, as here, soup kitchens, as we were at the other kitchen here in town. Talk with brothers and sisters who have been sleeping. But let me just say this, every dollar among the billions going into the drones, the millions going into the SOA, every dollar is a theft from our sisters and brothers here at home and in other countries. And once again, we are here simply in the name of love, in the name of solidarity. And we're not going away. We're going to keep marching. We're going to keep joining hands the Immokalee workers, the Georgia Peace and Justice Coalition, and all these other groups. And for me personally, I just feel grateful to have been invited, to be a part of this walk, this march. We have met people who have touched our lives deeply. And it's an honor to have with us the Immokalee workers and folks here in Atlanta who are connected to other organizations for peace and justice. So let's keep moving ahead, holding on to our hope, our joy. Thank you.
Yes.